Good. Well, hello everyone, and yes, welcome on the week 8, and actually just overall the program's last workshop. But I think it will be the epitome of our talk here. And once you have your product built, your team grown, and everything, what do you want? You of course want to talk to bigger companies than you are, and to build partnerships and to go to corporations to have mutually beneficial relationships and so on and so forth. And that's why we're having Slava today, who is an expert in B2B and I think corporate talk. So show us some lingo, professor, kind of. And yeah, without further ado, like if you have any questions, post them in the chat. And I think that we can have it rather interactive because we don't have many participants here. And overall, that would make it just as a warm discussion on the topic. And with this being said, Slava, the floor is yours. Really looking forward to see what you have and what tips you can give us.
Thanks, Serena. We'll go there Amazon style. So I have not prepared any slides, as I guess everybody's tired of PowerPoint presentations. So I want to skip this part. We'd rather build it as a discussion, as a joint dialogue, and we'll try to answer the questions because I truly enjoy doing the presentations in the interactive mode when it's not a webinar style. Yeah, this is the discussion, and we would like to go into the more sort of like workshop exchange presentation, so we can help maybe with some of the use cases. And of course, I don't know everything, but I can try to share some of my experiences being on the both sides. Yeah, I'm a startup entrepreneur, but also I spent past 11 years being the corporate innovation guy, sourcing and looking for exciting startups. And I believe this experience would be pretty interesting for you. So I can highlight what corporates are looking for, what corporates are expecting, and what is the best way to actually enter the corporate discussions and to get into the communication mode with them. What do they expect and how to manage the expectations? Yeah, as we all know that the velocity of corporates and velocity of the startups are two completely different things. Yeah, startups leave and push on every day because in a couple of months you can run out of funding or something else might happen. Corporates have a different tenure. Corporates have a different timeline. They live for years. And how do you manage, how do you breach this gap? How do you make sure that you are on the same page and you can communicate on the same timelines and roadmaps? I think this is the most important thing to understand and to find those pain points that corporates have. Actually, maybe we can start with before we dive into some of the experiences, maybe we can start with the first question. Why corporates want to work with the startups? Why is that? Why this necessity to connect old and new economies exists? And I would like, as we are a small group here, so I guess you don't need even to write in the chat. Maybe you can raise hand or start talking. I want to hear your thoughts and your opinion and your experiences. So the question, why corporates want to work with startups? Who wants to go first? Who wants to answer? Just raising hands is enough. Yeah, Artyom, please.
Because corporates cannot innovate. Corporates only can protect their market, but they cannot innovate. So they need startups to innovate.
Okay, good point. More opinions? Arash, yeah? Ora?
Yeah, so one thing is that sometimes the startups have a thing that they do need and they cannot have access to it. You know, for example, like a patent that a startup has and corporate need it.
But why corporate need it? Yeah, so we go back to the Artyom's point regarding the innovation. Yeah, so the corporates, yeah, exactly. Corporates are protecting their brands. Corporates are, I don't want to say lazy. They are not lazy. They just follow a certain routine. And they see startups as a potential source of new ideas, some extent R&D. Yeah, so it's a cheap R&D. You've already developed something. You already validated something. So I don't need to spend millions on that. I can just grab that and see what happens. So this is kind of the main intention. Sorry, close the door. So that's the main intention. So to avoid massive spending of the time and massive spending of the resources on certain innovation and validation of certain ideas. But here comes then the question, how do you match your innovation with corporate expectations? Because if you go and visit any of the corporates today, most likely you will be rejected. Yeah, you won't even get through their firewalls because they built multiple firewalls to avoid distraction. They have a bunch of innovation managers who think that they are the most smartest people in the world, and they don't want to be disturbed. So only when it comes to the point that, well, I need something to find, then I go sourcing and scouting for the startups. And then the big question, how do we interact? Almost 10 years ago, or even more, the corporate started this corporate acceleration programs, and they wanted to see how they can build the relationship and collaboration with the startups and source ideas in the first instances. So the 10 years ago, there was a big trend. Every major corporate wanted to have an accelerator because someone smart told them that this is the way to understand the new economy. This is the best way to interact with the startups and get the new ideas. And I can tell you, I participated in 3 or 4 of them from the side of the corporate, and most of them failed miserably and completely, because on the initial stages, their understanding what it requires to accelerate a startup was not there at all. The expectation management was totally lost. Startups wanted to come and get immediately the money or the access to the production. Corporates wanted to get some inspirations and ideas and see what happens. So the expectations management was completely off. Then after 3, 4, 5 years of experimentation, they said like, okay, maybe we need to have the accelerators, and also we need to have some innovation hubs. Then through the innovation hubs, we can communicate, and we can get to the communication with the startups in a little bit better way and see what happens. But still, it was a very, very tough path towards these things. I was mentoring Techstars. I was mentoring Plug and Play in Berlin, also Startup Bootcamp, and was one of the initial guys to support the startup Autobahn by Daimler. And a lot of fancy things, a lot of fancy ideas, but really, really hard to build that routine to get into the decision makers. So when are you approaching, or when are you coming to the corporates and you see that might be a good fit for you, for your product, for your validation? What do you expect from them? Yeah, let's see. What do you want to get from them? Why are you approaching corporates? Who wants to answer? Artyom, see you smiling.
Yeah. I don't know how the raise hand doesn't work on
Yeah,
me.
that's okay. We can do the old-fashioned way. We can do it like in the parliament.
Be careful in Germany, what they say.
Exactly, like we do in Germany. That's a digital German way. You just raise your hand. Yeah, I see Ross there. Okay, yeah, please, Artyom.
The volume, so the corporates eventually can generate a good volume of your products. So I think if approaching corporate spending purchasing power, it's quite attractive for selling
purchasing
products.
power, they can buy a lot of your products, and then you could be happy and rich. Okay, good. The next one was Ross, I see, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I want to touch both on the first point and also on this one. On the first point, I think that we deal a lot with corporates, and we are now at the point we're talking with Salesforce that's sourcing clients, B2B clients, and they told us basically the reason they're looking for startups is because their traditional tech partners they're promising AI pilots, for example, but they're gonna cost millions. In some cases, gonna cost 6 months to deliver, and it's just gonna be a chatbot. So they're starting to outsource and look for new startups that can deliver faster MVPs and that are not going to cost so much, for example. This is the reason why corporates are looking startups, or from our perspective. Now, on the second point, when we are looking corporates, the first thing I think what's important, at least for us from a value shop perspective, is to understand their pain points. Like we're gonna do a discovery calls, have prepared already like a set of questions, understanding their industry and asking, have they already tried AI? If yes, what worked, what didn't work? And then if not, like why would they choose to do it, for example? What are the top 3 things they would like to automate? So it's most about like learning what exactly, how they operate, where are the key pain points that you could potentially try to solve. Even if you cannot solve it, it's gonna give you insights to try and find like how can we make something for them, for example.
Perfect. That's perfect answer. Okay, we have something from Dmitry Rittens, experienced corporate innovation manager. The answer from my side. Yeah, but maybe Dmitry, can you speak it up or it's not convenient for you? Or I can read this.
It's too noisy, guys. Yeah, my opinion that's corporations can scale something, products, new ideas, and new R&Ds from 1 to 10 or to 100 items, but they can launch effective something from 0 to 1 due to bureaucratic procedures, due to bottlenecks, and so on, so on, so on.
Absolutely. So you're right. I liked Ross's point on the pain points, exactly that I was going to say. But let me give you and share some examples. When we worked at Daimler as a part of the first innovation hub called Peninsula, our main job was to source the new ideas and talk to the startups. Okay, so we did the scouting, we selected the startups based on the topic, and our topic was new mobility, electromobility, solving traveling salesman problems, so some algorithms optimizing the ride sharing, all these wonderful things, and also the IoT world and so on. So we identified one startup in the field of electromicromobility. It sounded very interesting. We said, okay, startup. Actually, it was identified through Startup Bootcamp for transportation and logistics vertical. So we were participating in this as a partner, and I was the guy who was sitting on all those speeches and presentations. So we have this startup, exciting, and then the point comes, how do we interact? So we said like, oh, let's invest in this startup. That's the best way. Okay, the startup's valuation is several millions. The Daimler cost to do the due diligence into the investing a startup is like $500,000 only to do the due diligence. And then what's the size of the investment? Okay, 200, 300, 500,000. Doesn't make sense. Then the smart guys from the legal department and from an A department said like, oh, let's just buy the startup. So what is like 2 million? We just buy the startup. That's would be easy and cheaper. But like, wait. Why do we don't need to buy the startup? Let's find a way. How do we interact? We still want to see and check if their product fitting what we need. So then we started thinking, okay, maybe convertible loans, also due diligence and stuff. Okay, what else? And then we came up, okay, let's do a pilot together. So we'll ask you to do something, we'll pay for it. You do for us some pilot, and then we see whether it fits or not. But it took us probably like 1 year of iterations and political negotiations to come up with this point. So it's much easier not to just invest, not to just give the convertible loans, whatever, but just agree on the pilot, do some product. But then comes the questions of the IP, how it's being utilized and how it's being implemented, what happens next. But this all secondary. The most important thing, and I like the comment from Ross, I see that he has a lot of experience dealing with the corporates, is to understand their pain points and identify the key stakeholder. So looking at the company that's probably a match, identifying their pain points, and then looking who are the gatekeepers, who are the stakeholders with whom you can talk, whether they have some innovation hubs, whether they have some head of innovation departments, or they do have some participation in the acceleration programs. Because without a corporate sponsor, without a corporate gatekeeper, it will be impossible to enter into the company and to achieve something. There's always a need that someone need to pull the ideas. Am I right, Ross?
Correct. This is the most important thing. And I think like what most people don't do is that they think, okay, we're going to send an email to their generic info at something and maybe they're going to see it. But in reality, you can find who's the right people to talk. And we usually send like either adding them on LinkedIn and then send personalized messages, not like copy pasted stuff, like very human-like, human-readable messages. And we usually, like, the goal is to kind of convince them to get into a call, not sell anything upfront, not kind of show them like, hey, this is what we can do for you, but say like, this is what we're interesting. We think this could be a match. And at the end, we say, if you're not the right person, could you please direct us to the right person? And in most cases, they do. Like, if they're not the right person, they will say like, oh, this is interesting. You should talk to this guy. And then we go to this guy and say like, hey, your guy sent us to you to discuss these things. And this is like a streamlined process from there.
There's like a 5 handshakes or whatever referral process, and you're exactly absolutely right. This is the methodology it works. If you just send something to info, the likelihood that somebody would see and reply and respond is less than 10%. Yeah, it's really, really, really low. Going into the finding 3, 4, 5 potential stakeholders, adding them on LinkedIn, because how can you communicate to them? Yeah, their corporate emails and phone numbers are not listed, but you need to get into the personal exchange. You need to get into the dialogue. Without the dialogue and without an opportunity to tell your story, nothing would happen. There are hundreds or thousands of people looking to get a hold of these guys. So they're also very selective in the communication and selective with whom they want to talk about what they want to talk. And when you are adding someone in LinkedIn, yeah, and then getting a send message, also the chances that he will see and reply LinkedIn also pretty low, but at least it's higher than 10%. It's more like to 20 to 30% that you will get an answer. And if you got an answer, then you ask for the referral for the right guy. And pretty often I see that most of the corporate guys now became pretty open to make the referral. So it's a big shift, yeah, because 10 years ago in Germany, nobody even looked at LinkedIn. So there was no way to write anything on LinkedIn because there was no use. Nobody would reply. Info, emails was never read, nobody paid attention. Nowadays, I think there is a really good shift, yeah, with a step-by-step approach, with us knocking those doors. There is a big improvement that the corporates, they became more open and they started talking to the startups because they see that there is a potential of value. They don't take us from a startup world as storytellers and selling the clouds. Now they've seen successful stories, they've seen successful cases. And now, especially with the shift, when you are providing not some physical products or services or long-term development software solutions or the platforms, now when most of the startups have competence in AI, this is something what corporates don't have and they are missing. I've tried to implement several corporate AI solutions, and the biggest achievement was having an internal chat GPT marketed as our own AI assistant. But that's total crap. This is not serious. And being super proud of this, that you have rebranded ChatGPT in your corporate AI agent, that's no achievement. But this is the biggest thing what they can do today. And I've run many talks and had a lot of executive dinners with the C-level guys. And the main issue why AI is not being implemented fast is, first of all, it's a lack of literacy of C-level guys. They just don't know what to do with AI. Yeah, everybody uses ChatGPT, so to say, or playing around with this, but this is not a corporate solution. Yeah, you need to look into the process automation, some of the search optimization, or building some configurators or hyper personalized offers. So some of those things, but there is a lack of understanding literacy in how building this or to do these things. And when you don't know something, when you don't understand something, you don't want to look stupid. And this goes to the C-level stack. And we are talking about some of the CIOs, CTOs, or whatever, CDO guys who don't want to look stupid. And if I don't want to look stupid, I would rather pause, put it on hold, and see what happens. Or on top of lack of literacy, you don't have the right structure. Because what is AI? AI is based on data. If you don't have proper data sources, clean data, structured data, you cannot do something. And of course, there have been a lot of experiments. They started, yeah, let's do something, let's experiment because the board demands some of the AI solutions. Let's try to implement something. Okay, then you go into implementation. You have lack of understanding what you want to do with this, what kind of use cases you want to do. Then you have poor data. The results are terrible. You know, there is a good saying, shut in, shut out. Sorry, my language, but this is the reality. This is what happens. And then you don't understand. You have a bad experiences. What you do, you just put a roadblocker, like please, no AI stuff. So the important thing here, what has been communicated, yeah, it's like to find the right stakeholder who is not afraid to experiment, who has a really, really big pain point, and who has a certain influence within the organization. That's why it's important to do your due diligence, to do your homework. Looking at the company, you need to see who are the key stakeholders. And writing to, let's say, to the CIO or the CTO and CDO, it's not necessarily always the best thing now, because they are super busy. They are sometimes arrogant. Yeah, I've been CTO myself 3 times. So everybody is trying to get your attention. So you just kind of ignore most of the LinkedIn messages. So you need to identify who are your stakeholders on the mid-management level, going to the director level, going to the head of whatever, data, AI, head of product, whatever, and get these guys, because they are on the execution floor. They on the execution side, they have pain points, and they are constantly looking for optimization for the solutions to solve that. And this is how you need to go about this. And also try to avoid hype. Yeah, like when you are trying to write a message and immediately try to oversell and use this generic ChatGPT generated messages, that's what Rose said. Don't do that. This is the first to be banned, blocked, and ignored. You have to understand, yeah, based on the homework, what are the pain points, yeah, and ChatGPT or Gemini can help you with the research. What are the concrete pain points of this department, of this head of the department? And then if your solution fits, try to highlight this, but make these messages short, down to the point. And then if there is interest, there will be follow-up. And of course, you will need to write, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 of those messages with the proper homework. So it becomes a real routine and a real job, a real task, just to reach out and to get the right conversion, because this is sort of a sales job. This is a conversion. You need to convert this guy at least to talk to you, and then see. Also, another great thing other than LinkedIn, from my also personal experience, it's various conferences or the panels. This is the chance where you can get a hold of the person face to face. And usually the best place to have this discussion is during the coffee breaks. At least this is from my experience. This worked for me. This is how I was converted, or how I converted people. You go to the conference, you see someone talking on the panel or doing the presentation. You see that this person is telling the story that touches you, that you have probably that his pain and you have the solution for this pain. So then get a hold of this person during the coffee break, because that's the best timing. Don't try to kind of approach him with many questions, whatever, during his speech or the presentation, but get a hold in a peace and harmony during the coffee break, and then pitch your story, and then exchange kind of some of the personal contacts, get into the discussion, try to get his business card. Yeah, don't push him yours business card, because they will never send an email, but get his contacts, get his business card, and then kind of schedule and try to do a follow-up. But you have an opportunity for the elevator pitch, so to say, like 30, 40 seconds, 1-2 minutes to get the right points, and then pitch your solution very clearly. But here comes a little bit of a practice and training. You have to be prepared to pitch your stuff in 30, 40 seconds, literally. And this is not a joke or the common saying. You have to go down to the point and really kind of convey the message very clearly, so that person catches this message, then associates this message with his pain point, and see like, okay, yeah, this is the guy. Yeah, let's talk. I'll send you, or you send me your information. I want to go for this. And this is important, like to catch this attention, because this gatekeepers or the main stakeholders are the guys to push and to promote your solution. And using now the hype of AI and also a lot of failures in AI. Yeah. And why AI solutions fail? Yeah. Let's be honest. They fail because of the missed expectations and because of the majority of the corporate stakeholders. They think that AI is the ultimate solution. But it's not. It's just one of the tools. But they don't associate with this because there's such a huge hype. So everybody thinks that I come, install AI solution, all my problems solved, all processes automated, all the pitch decks generated, all the quotes are generated automatically, and that's fine, and I can find everything. No, it's just one of the elements of this digital transformation, yeah, that everybody seek to hear, but that's the process. AI is just another element, another tool as an IoT or the other automation. So you have to be also clear in that and to identify that, well, we're giving you a support, giving you a tool, how we can help you to solve those problems. And then, of course, comes the topic, how to follow up and what do you do next. Yeah? Then you have to clearly understand that you generated some attention, you have some interest from the corporate, but then don't let the corporate override you, because they would be putting your agenda aside and they would be forcing you to follow their agenda. And then you are becoming sort of like a almost free of charge external R&D. Is it a good thing or not? What do you think, guys?
I have actually a comment about that.
Yeah, sure.
In my previous company, we used to get we got a purchase order from a big corporate, a big search engine organization, and once we started looking at terms and conditions, they basically had a condition that everything generated by the company belongs to to the corporation. Yeah, so like basically wanted to buy entire intellectual property of the company with a purchase order of a few hundred K. Yeah, read your terms and conditions. Yeah. So we had to rebuttal it. Yeah.
Extremely important point, because every corporate, and I would be absolutely honest with you, every corporate, every company wants to take an advantage. Once you are in, then they want to take a full advantage and they want to see how they can use you. And honestly, I've been on that side as well. And when I was talking to the startups, I was thinking only from my perspective, how can I direct you to solve my today's existing problems? And actually, I don't care what happens to you. I wanted to solve my pain points and I don't care. And exactly what Artyom says, it's like in the terms and conditions or IP that we create during our pilot or whatever collaboration belongs to us. Hell no. Yeah, and then they just put the things that they want to solve, not what you want to sell. You know, this is a big difference. You want to sell your product, you want to get this multiplicator factor from a corporate, but instead they're putting this on you. I just had a recent example of my own with my current startup, PillPack, you see in the background. We got in touch with a very big transformer, or the very big company producing some greenhouse films, some additional things for the greenhouses out of plastic. And our solution, this is a biocompostable material based out of potato peels with the properties similar to plastic, but it's completely natural, organic, and biocompostable. And the guy saw the interest. They're like, oh, okay, so I can produce film out of your pellets or the granules that will be biocompostable. So it solves me a huge pain point of more than 200,000 euros a year when these guys need to utilize this used film. Then I can use some of the hangers, ropes, and whatever. I can do many things. And then instead of kind of listening to us, listening to our products, what we are trying to do, what we are trying to like, no, guys, can you build this for me? Okay, let's try to do this and these things. And immediately we're pushing us towards losing our focus, towards losing our main idea, what we are actually doing, what we are actually creating. And our main product are punnets. Yeah, this is our main product, biocompostable punnets for fruits and vegetables. And this corporate, who we were hoping would support us, he completely ignored all our messages and ideas and the product developments, and tried to push us into his direction to solve his problems. Yes, it's maybe at some point it's okay, but not for the early stage startup when your R&D budget is limited, where your lifespan is limited and your burn rate is high. And then you start solving somebody else's problem, you end up becoming a true external R&D, which is super cheap for this corporate. And then most likely in 6 to 12 months, you run out of money and you are done because you will not deliver tangible results that would be immediately incorporated into the production. And this goes not only to the physical products, that goes also to the digital products. It doesn't really matter. But not allowing corporates to overrule your ideas, this is very, very hard, because when you get the first touch, you get a nice communication, you get super hyped and excited, you're already counting millions of your exit, that you're so happy, and that someone will come and give you a lot of money and help you and bring your product onto the shelf. No, it's only your hard work, and it's only your focus. You have to stay focused on your product and make sure that it aligns with the corporate pain points. And if it does not, if they're pushing you into the other direction, well, call it a learning, give up and move on to get another corporate, another company with whom you would be more aligned. Because the worst part of all of this, to waste your time on executing somebody else's pain points or the dreams. And then you're totally out of business. Then you are totally screwed because you kind of gave up your main idea, followed the hope that the corporate will help you. No, be realistic. Corporates are not there to help you. They are not your friends. They are your potential, maybe, customers when the time comes. And in order to get to the point that you can sell to the corporate and install, you have to pass through many gatekeepers and different stages of the alignment. And as has been previously communicated and discussed, it's important to have at least one stakeholder who is pushing you. If there is no internal push, if you have not won any internal interest, you can forget about this. You can, of course, give several tries, but just to kind of put the checkbox or the check mark. But if you have not won hearts and minds of even one single person who can be a budget holder or a decision maker within the company, there is no chance. No chance. This is suffered through, I would say, blood and tears of my own experiences, knocking those doors and hoping that, well, yeah, tomorrow they will wake up. No, they will not. They're all caring only about their stuff. And again, don't forget, your time span is weeks or the months. Their lifespan is years or dozens of years. And this is a big difference where comes the major, I would say, misalignment with the velocity and with time speed. I'm repeating this over and over. Again, don't judge me too harsh here, but this is just to remember that your time and budget is limited. Corporate budget is enormous. And you will not change their way of doing business if you are there or if you are not there. Yeah, the chances that you would be this magic ticket that changes their entire business process are very low. And if your innovation is inside of the company or it's not inside of the company, that's really does not really make a big difference for the corporate, because they also want to be risk averse. And this is another big topic that you also have to keep in mind, that majority of the corporate leaders are risk averse. Why? Because if they're taking a chance and bringing a startup in, this is already a huge risk, and they would be accountable for these risks. So it's already a big effort and big risk, stating that like, well, these guys could solve our problems. That could be a nice solution for us for the future and so on. Let's give it a try. But what if not? The chances that it will not work are much higher than it will work. And then the corporate guys are getting blamed, yeah, by the peers or the supervisors that they have screwed up. That impacts their bonus, impacts their promotion. So the stakes are pretty high. And in this also world, so you have to be very confident that your solution is working. You have enough stakeholders, you have enough capacity to deploy that. And then there is a chance. So I don't want to kind of talk you off working with the corporates. It's important because that's the whole idea of the startup. Yes, to get in partnership of the bigger corporate, have a wonderful exit, or have your product accepted by the corporate. We are all looking for that because it's a faster and a nicer way. But it's a really, really hard way and a risky way. I had another example from my past when, again, managing expectations and being on this field of being exposed to the rest of the company or to the market. Again, Daimler side, we had a lot of pilots with multiple topics with startups and without startups, but never, and actually none of the pilots ended up going to market. And I could not understand why we are 70 and 80% ready, but none of the solutions are going to the market. And then I learned that my boss, who was the head of Future Transportation Systems Department and was a professional career corporate guy, he didn't want to get exposed. Because when you're running pilots, you get budget, you get recognition, you report that you're running multiple pilots, but you never go to market. Why this important for us? Because your goal as a startup is to go to market. You don't want to run pilots for 5 years with corporates with a minimum budget, almost no budget, but having the hope that at some point they will accept you and they will help you to go to market, or they will start selling your product or using this product. And this is exactly the feeling that you need to understand, because if you do a pilot for 3 months or the 4 months, collect the feedback, and it's like, let's do another pilot, then you do another 3 months, and then another 6 months, then there should be a point when you pull the plug and you say like, look guys, stop. Now, are we going commercial? Are we moving to the next level, or we are not? And this is also a very hard conversation because you think that you are almost there. Yeah, Ulysses, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I just recall what you just said, because I'm about to launch this beta version that today, supposedly, and I'm having my first onboarding. And I realized just to get the companies on board has been very complicated, because the difference is they register, but now in order for them to register their onboarding has been complicated. I have been chasing them like pretty much every day. And the thing is that at first I thought, this virtual reality AI assistant, powered by an avatar is going to be a difference. But it turns out that particularly here in Mexico, one of the biggest points, because they register that big point in the form, is content creation for the courses, for education, right? So I've been in education 10 years and I thought I understood all the pain points. But then yesterday I have this call with this big system in Mexico. It's called EBC. And this girl told me, hey, yes, the platform looks very well, but our NPS is already good. So I'm thinking I have to refine my pitch for every use case that I have, like this educational system delivering corporate training, and this company is going to deliver the training for their own employees. So with one of them, I have to talk about increasing sales. And for another ones, I have to talk about, reducing the rotation in terms of employees. And right now, I feel like I don't know if the beta approach was the right one. I'm gonna talk to. I have to think about it. That the deployment is being hell for me, because it's been so difficult just to get the everything without zero errors, and then deploy it. So I don't know if the pilot approach is the best one, because I'm having more calls than people wanting to join the beta to give me feedback. I'm having more calls telling me, hey, yes, let's pilot it. And like you just said, the risk in it. Like, for instance, in education, like instead of going to the centralized office, I know they're risk averse. I'm going for people for the campuses that I know, and I'm telling them, hey, let's pilot this in corporate education, in continuing education. And they're willing to do so. So right now, I don't know if, Vaisyaslav, according to your experience, if I just, tell these 4 or 5 guys that actually are going to be joining the beta, and I'm going to be seeing this platform only with 4 or 5 users because the social and community is a big part. Hey guys, yes, you said, but what do you think if we just, schedule a pilot for your clients? So I feel exactly at that point right now.
Mm-hmm. I hear your pain and totally understand that. Yes, that's you invested a lot of time, you invested a lot of effort, and you wanna get the not only feedback, you wanna get some results. Yeah, but how do you get if they are so arrogant to a certain extent and ignorant? Well, I would say keep trying. Yeah, don't give up. Identify those who are much more open for the conversion, as you said, going to the smaller campuses where the people can get something. Try to get something done with them. Then get some of their quotes, get of their some of the feedbacks, and see if they can bring it deeper in the organization. If you see that there is a firewall, exactly, if you see that you cannot go through this wall, then maybe you have to make a harsh decision, cut, and get to another customer, and maybe pivot the things. But you're absolutely right, because you have to understand and fine tune your product offering or your product fit to the pain point of organization. If it's content creation, if they have issues with the content, that say hi. Hi. Then if it's content creation, then they don't care about the platform delivery, how that works. Yeah, if they have problems with the content. But if they have problem with the display, with the recording, with the executing the usage of the platform, then they might not care about the content. So you have to feel and understand from those onboarding talks, from those questions, where actually the pain point is. I'll give you another funny example, like going exactly into the same direction. I had a meeting with a company that is producing the prefabricated houses, and from my biography, I was the chief digital information officer of one of the biggest European groups that does the production of prefabricated houses. And I developed and digitalized their customer journey and built an AI tool that is the product configurator that helps them to configure the right house for the right customer, and saves a lot of time, and also reduces the amount of the cold calls, so actually almost brings them to zero cold calls from the sales agents. And I finished this assignment in May 2025, and a couple of months ago, and their competitor approached me and said, like, well, do you have a competitor clause? Can you maybe look into what we are doing and consult us? Like, well, 6 months passed. Yeah, kind of, I'm okay. We can talk. And then I'm going to the conversation with this company. There is a head of sales, there is a head of IT, there is also the bunch of operations guys, and we sit in the conversation, and then the head of sales kind of pushes everybody aside and says, how many more homes can I sell with your AI solution? I'm like, well, I don't know. We have to understand your case. Like, do you actually, maybe you even don't need this. We need to understand your customer journey. Let's start from the beginning. What is your customer journey, and where this AI solution that I have built fits in? I just don't want to give you the AI solution, develop this individually for you, and promise that you will be selling 300% more without really understanding your use case. And I was super amazed. Then after we parked that we have to digest, and then a couple of days later, head of sales writes me an email saying, like, nah, we are not interested. It's not a priority for us. I'm just interested in selling more houses. And if I cannot sell more houses with your AI solution, if you cannot guarantee that, I'm not interested. I'm like, look, guys, you're trying to get a magic ticket, without really understanding the content and why you need that. Why I'm giving this example? Because you have to be on the same kind of ground, on the same frequency with your customer. And again, management of expectations, that sounds, like really crazy, but managing the expectations. I have a product, you want to have this product, but then the context of utilization of this product might be totally wrong. And then I will end up creating a lot of disappointment. I bring this product, I put it, and then it does not work because it doesn't fit into the entire customer journey. So when bringing your product, you need to see the bigger picture. You need to understand what is the bigger picture of this customer journey, or of this business process, where you go, how is it interconnected with other elements? Because you cannot just put one element inside and then expect that the digital transformation or the excitement happens by its own. No, it has to be all interconnected, and it has to have the right fit into the right environment. So, and this is like, I laughed at this example, because I said like exactly that the solution, when it fits really well into the entire customer journey, will make your sales guys more efficient, and will actually probably reduce the number of the sales guys, because they today you have 250 sales guys, but with the help of the solution, this number could be reduced maybe to 100 or even to 50, and they will be more efficient because they will be only closing the deals but not making the stupid cold calls that everybody hates. So, but in order to get to this point, I need to understand the whole process. I need to see what are you guys doing? There is another also interesting example. I was asked to help to navigate a business case to one company that collects a shed loads of consumer data, which is super cool and super like. The concept of the idea is you go grocery shopping, and after the grocery shopping, you scan the receipt and you share the receipt, what you have purchased. And based on that, then the company builds a data set and a picture, a map of what are the prices for the items, in which supermarket, in which geography. It's a German solution in Germany. What are the customer preferences? What are they buying? What is the average check? So there are a lot of exciting things in there that comes with this. But the company that has developed this solution, they have been nurturing and collecting the data with this solution for 3 years, but now they came to the point that they don't know how they monetize this data. They tried to talk to the retailers and tried to sell this data to the retailers, but retailers said, we already have this data. We don't care about the pricing. So the idea, when you create something, you already need to think, how do you monetize that? How do you sell? And not create something because I think it's cool, and then 3-4 years later, we might find some use case. This is exactly the wrong approach. But in this case, this guy had a successful exit before, and he invested himself more than 10 million euros into this solution in the past 3.5 years. He could afford that. And he had 0 investments. And now he's saying, like, in order to scale, I need to get the investment because I'm running out of my money. But in order to get the investment, all the investors are asking, what's your business model? How are you going to generate money? And he says, well, maybe I do subscription, maybe I do this. Well, Slava, maybe you can kind of brainstorm and help me with that. And I'm saying, like, well, look, 3.5 years you've been building a solution and you don't know how to monetize that. And this is also something as an example for you guys. When you go again to the corporate, so you go to the scale, you have to understand how this solution will make an impact and make a return on investment, or either help with the revenue to the company, help to generate more sales, or help with the operational efficiency. Because there are only 2 things, how you can make money. You either improve operational efficiency or you get a new revenue stream with this, or additional, or expand the existing revenue stream with your solution. There is no other kind of magic how you can improve things. But it's important when you begin building something or doing something, you need to think how it will make money. What is your business model to avoid the situation like this, that after investing more than 10 million, you start to think, oh, how can I really make my first revenues from that? And this a very interesting point brings me that a lot of founders are so much in love with their solution that they forget about the problem that they are solving. Don't forget that you are solving a problem in order to make money. You are not creating something that Slava or Dmitry or Artyom likes. You are not here to please yourself and your ego. You can do this if you have 10 or 20 million in your bank account. You can play around with the stuff and you can do this for sure, but then you will face the same issue. what is my business model? What problem am I actually solving? How can I sell things? And that's also another point on early validation. You have to validate your stuff as early as possible. It should not be perfect. It should not be the best UI, UX, whatever tool, but go into the customer validation as soon as possible. I'm helping one company, another that's doing a fashion app based on AI, so that helps to match the right clothing in your wardrobe to the weather and stuff. And they say like, yeah, let's build a great UX, UI. Let's have all the database of all your clothing in there and so on. I was like, no, guys, you build the first MVP with basic functionality, go out there and test with your customers. Have first 100 customers giving you your feedback. It should not be perfect, but collect the first feedback as early as possible, because based on the feedback, you either pivot or you either kill your idea, because there is no problem that you're trying to solve. You just like something. And the same goes for the corporates. Yeah, you approach the companies, you approach the corporates, you think that you are solving their problem, but in reality, this problem might not even exist. So that's why getting to as many corporates, as many contacts as possible, as many discussions as possible is really crucial. That's also could be the case that this is not a problem for Siemens, but this is a problem for Daimler. Yeah, even though that big corporates kind of operating in a similar fields, but their processes and their issues might be totally different. Therefore, don't put your bets only on one customer, one big corporate, and then you can end up spending 1 year in the conversion or entering one big corporate customer. And then when you're sort of in there, you start doing a pilot, and then you realize that they don't really need your solution. And then you wasted 1 year, and instead of good feedback, you just completely down and you think like, okay, that's all shit. Maybe I should kill my idea. No, maybe it has been the wrong market or the wrong customer. That's why always diversify your risks. Look at various markets. This is also important. And also, Ulysses, it's in your direction. Yeah, you talk to you're the Mexico City guys. Maybe you can talk to the other Latin American companies or the American companies. So you can identify 2, 3, 4 customers and then try to develop them, because the velocity of this development would be different. Some things will be moving fast, some things will be moving slower, but also the result might be different. The guys who are moving slower might be more profound guys and might be more interested in your case and might be taking your solution more seriously than those guys who say immediately, yes, let's go into the pilots, let's do the tests. And then when you come to the real execution, then you have to chase them. They don't have, the right clearance or not the right infrastructure. Oh, we don't have the right guys. This on vacation. This one is sick. And then it takes you forever to get to the execution mode. When those guys who were super slow, super profound, asking a lot of stupid questions, but moving very slowly, then you arrive at the point that they are happy and ready to deploy your solution faster than those who were saying fast yes. Always be careful with those corporates or with those companies who say yes very fast without even knowing in details, in depth, your solution. They say yes, and then nothing happens. That's also coming a bit from experience. I worked at the company called NKT. It's a Danish-Swedish company when you have 50% Danes, 50% Swedes on the board. And I don't know if you worked with the Nordics, but they have a completely different decision-making power and decision-making process, where the Danish guys say yes and catch the idea, say yes pretty fast, but then they start kind of rethinking, aligning, and then a bit kind of pushing back. Where the Swedish guys, they have to have a consensus. Before the board of the Swedish guys say yes, everybody should agree, everybody should say yes. Yeah, we really confirm. So they take a lot more time for the preparation, for the discussions, but when there is a decision, there is yes, they go into the execution fast. Where with the Danish guys saying yes fast, then they start a bit of a contemplating and a bit of a pulling back, and then you need another effort to push. This is a very interesting thing that I could never imagine that in one company could be such a cultural decision-making stress. And when I was presenting my solutions to the board, I was thinking, oh, it's super cool. Yeah, this guy said yes. And so these ones I will contemplate, but I will push them later. No, you have to understand also how to navigate your stakeholders based on the cultural differences and based on the cultural way of doing business. And this is something, now I'm based in Switzerland, and this is something that I learned also the hard way. The Swiss people, even speaking German, are super polite and they are not giving harsh feedback. Never. They would politely say that we don't like you. So they might say, oh, well, it's a very interesting solution. Thank you. And that means like, bye-bye. Yeah, but you would say like, well, if you go to a German company where the Germans, where I lived for them, worked for the past 11 years, they are super direct. If they like it, they say, it's good. We like it. It's interesting. Interesting solution means let's do something. If they don't like it, they say, no, we are not interested. So it's pretty clear. Not polite, but very clear. With the Swiss guys, yeah, you're presenting an interesting way. Solution is interesting, but it does not mean yes. Most likely it means no. So this is something also very important to understand the mentality of your stakeholder and let's say the geography and the nationality of your company with whom you're working. Of course, I'm not making the stereotypes, whatever, but this is some of the practices in the business that are being developed and being used. So you have to also understand these cultural differences. I had a project in Japan where I was super dissatisfied. I was implementing GPS tracking on the crates in Japan to track our crates and to understand why where we have the leakages, inefficiencies, theft, or the issues. And I was deploying this project out of Germany. We hired one of the best consultancies to support us with the project manager. So everything was aligned, product was good, tested, super clear. Attach a tracker, deploy it in the circulation, collect data. Then we analyze the data and understand where is the leakage, where the problems. I spent 3 months, no result. Like nothing is happening. There are weekly meetings, weekly reports, nothing is executed. Even the discussions are super good. Nothing is happening. So I said like, okay, I have to go there. I take my team, we fly to Japan, very nice hospitality, great meetings, no result. And when I started escalating this, and Japanese people don't like escalation, but I started escalating and taking a very serious risks. Then at the coffee break, I learned the true issue, why nothing is happening. Even that a lot of money investment, best consultants are supporting us, no result. Because 5 years ago, this our subsidiary, yeah, and I was not working there 5 years ago, I didn't know about that. They had a GPS experiment, but the trackers were the big, bulky, falling off. And they, during doing this pilot with those 5 years ago GPS trackers, they pissed off a lot of customers. A lot of customers were super unhappy. They returned these crates, returned these trackers and said, please, never again. And because of the politeness, not to disappoint me, but at the same time, not to lose face in front of the customers, they just sabotaged the project. Instead of giving me an open feedback, what was the problem? They just did the sabotage. And everybody was super unhappy and could not understand it. When I got to this point, of course, then I found the solution. And then I really had to go myself to every impacted and affected customer, demonstrate the trackers, demonstrate the process, and do a lot of field work. And at the end of the day, conveying the right message and converting them to do this project and to execute that. And it took me, 2 weeks and a lot of field work myself. But without going there and talking to people and understanding the stakeholders and their hidden agenda, because this is a right example of the hidden agenda. Why I'm saying that? Because many corporates with whom you're talking also have their hidden agenda. And their hidden agenda might be against or might be for your solution. How to determine this? Extremely hard. Only if you build good personal relationship. But building good personal relationship when you have a very limited contact or impact on the person is almost impossible, very hard. But this is something also to keep in mind, that why all of a sudden you have either headwind, either tailwind with some of the projects. If you hit the hidden agenda and your solution solves this hidden agenda, then you will have a super good tailwind and everything will go smooth, and this stakeholder will push you forward. But if overall it's important, but still nothing is happening, it's not just they're stupid or ignorant or arrogant, whatever. There might be a hidden agenda in place why this is not happening. Either they tried this before, it did not work, but they want to look nice in front of the management who brought this solution or in front of the stakeholders. But in reality, they will sabotage it. And that might be, Ulysses, might be also an idea or the case for you to explore this. Maybe they had the previous bad experiences, so they just they need to do something, but they had bad experience, so they don't want to expose themselves and to get into the trouble. This is something also. So at the end of the day, business is done by people. Yeah, not by AI yet, not yet by AI. So, and people still have their feelings, their mindset, their way of doing business, and their own agendas, hidden or mere or the very clear agendas. So this is something also to keep in mind. And I don't know, guys, have you had any experiences with facing kind of hidden agenda or facing some of the headwinds by introducing your solutions to the customers? If you want to share something, it would be interesting to look into that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had one case very recently where we are almost on the point of signing a deal with the customer. It was let's say, education institution from the US. And the guy seemed to be extremely happy. And he said, look, we're looking for something like this for many years, but we had, let's say, commissioned another company 2 years ago. And everything was almost like we had a feeling that it's more than tailwind. It was like blowing powerfully in our favor. And then we submitted the final proposal with the pricing, which also we agreed on before. And then quiet for about a month, right? Nothing happened. And then we tried to find out what happened. And in the end, we got a message that basically from the same guy that was super excited, let's say a month and something ago. And he told us, look, guys, there's a problem. The person that was responsible for the project, which in reality was him, is no longer available. We're doing that and that. And what we understood, basically reading between the lines, is that he was kind of, by his bosses, he was asked, why did you recommend 2 years ago a solution and you made all of this fuss and now you're changing it? So basically, even if it's a better solution for them, the fact that they committed on a previous engagement and they had this kind of fuss and they announced it, made it so that he was forced to keep working with them. We didn't got this officially. We got it from another, let's say, channel, the explanation, but that was the reason. So the agenda of the guy was good, but the agenda of the university, of his, let's say, decision makers, was now said, look, why did you recommend this? You said that it's the best solution, and now you come with another one 2 years after, right? So why are you switching so soon or so fast? So we lost that, or lost. At least we are waiting for something to happen. But I think it's exactly this kind of situations where you feel like everything was going extremely well, and then at some point, but that's a lesson to learn for us. And to make sure that we're not coming in any way as foes, but as friends to existing, solutions, or complementing, not replacing. That's the core, I think, the learning lessons for us. We have to.
How do you solve this, Claudio? So have you resolved this situation?
Not with this company, but we in the future, let's say, endeavors with other companies. As I said, we're coming to complement, not to replace. Initially, we are very proud that we found something that our value was replacing the same value that the other company was adding, right? Because we're offering much more for less money or same amount of money. But now we understand that we have to be very, very understanding of the fact that whatever it sets in motion or it sets in motion, especially with corporations, is very hard to change. So we have to prove our value. We have to prove our lesson was that we have to prove a huge return on investment to be able to make a company switch from what they already use to something that they're going to adopt us. And to do so, we have to give them use cases. We have to give them examples of how our solution managed for other customers to improve their whatever by X amount, and that X has to be a big number. So that's our learning, that we have to be able to prove a lot of value. For 50% increase, they will not change.
Yeah.
So it has to be much more than that. That's our conclusion, that we have to really show and demonstrate the value with other use cases from other companies to make sure that that company has the material or the guys, our ambassadors have the material to be able to promote our solution if it needs to replace another one, which is apparently much more difficult than we thought.
Well, change is a pain, and especially in the corporate environment, when you want to drive some change management, you want to implement the new solution. Then there comes the topic of a master data, then of implementation, adoption, utilization. Everybody hates that, yeah, because this is my routine. This is not perfect routine, but I've been doing this for 10 years. I know how to do it. You bring me something new, but yeah, that's easy. It will save you 90% of your time. Yes, but I got used to my routine. And this, to overcome this, extremely, extremely hard. And sometimes when you start pushing that, yeah, there might be some solutions that are faster than you are, coming a bit faster to the point, and they're not efficient. And then you get into the point that you are solving the pain point. It seems like your solution is better, but it has been adopted a year or two ago. And then the question, yeah, why should we replace? So then in 2 years, we will replace the cloud use solution again. Exactly. And then the people just, having several fights, then they just give up, stand aside and say like, okay, whatever, I don't care anymore. And it is also a part of the corporate reality, yeah, that sometimes they deliberately don't want to take risk or don't want to go for even the better solution because it will disrupt the status quo. It will disrupt the existing process, and nobody likes that. Nobody wants that.
The only way we found a solution, so you're perfectly right, our approach now has changed not only to be able to prove value, because then, like you said, even then is not enough, but to say, look, you already have a solution, and that's good for that niche of the needs you have. We are complementing that with our solution, so we're adding, not replacing, because if you add something, usually it's better.
Exactly. This is what we're trying to do now.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the right mentality.
Yeah. And our approach is to create let's say, a bridgehead to build something that proves value within the company, which with a small budget initially, right? So, but also fast for us to deploy because we're a SaaS, right? So we're not doing something custom for them. And then based on that value that they see, to make them want more and more. And at some point, they can decide if they can share let's say the budget, or at some point the other company may have to leave, but we're not pushing that to happen ourselves, right? So that's our learning from this, that we have to be very, how to say, elegant. We have to make the motion, or how to say, the things that have to be set in motion have to be minimal for them.
Yeah.
So no extra work if possible, or very little extra work. And then gently, and by proving a lot of value, kind of squeeze in and try to grow ourselves. But we have to be also performant. It doesn't work. You cannot lie yourself into this position, I think. No. So that's, yeah. So
yeah, and you have to clearly demonstrate the value. You have to clearly display the value and the little disruption to the process, but more adding kind of to the implementation. Yeah. Otherwise, and then once you are in, then you can start disrupting. Yeah, then you can start changing and squeezing the other solution out. But the first you have to get in. Before you in, don't scare them. I made those my mistakes, several times when I was presenting to the board this very disruptive strategies. And I was thinking that the board would support me because, well, they hired me as a chief digital officer, a chief transformation officer to come and to disrupt, to bring transformation. And they are private equity. They want to move fast. They need to deliver results for the next exit. Hell no. Yeah. Reality is way different. They don't want to risk. They have their clear plan. They don't want to have much of the disruption. They want to have some of the incremental improvements. Really incremental, low risk, low cost improvements that will move the upside or the bottom side a little bit later on down the road, but not at this given moment, not immediately, bringing a lot of unrest and the disruption. And this is the very interesting part, yeah, that you're also learning from being inside of the companies and seeing when you try to come and bring the revolution, that scares the hell of people out. They are scared.
Some people are more, let's say, receptive, but you have to. Those are the exceptions. That's what you learn. There are, let's say, people that are literally looking for our solution. So this is different. So just to give an example, we just been in Brussels in the United XR exhibition in December, and there people are coming to search for a new solution. That's a different approach because then they are searching. And today, for example, we had a meeting with some potential customer, big company from the Netherlands. And the same thing, they ask you, look, can we do this ourselves? Really? Yes, you can. Is it really a no-code solution? Yes, it's a pure no-code solution. So they were not trusting us because in the past, other companies have promised kind of the same things, but actually the reality was not that, right? So now we're fighting also with bad experience of these guys with the previous companies that promised and then they didn't deliver or they kind of, let's say, twisted the truth a little bit, right? So they were very, very like, really, are you sure that there's no code involved? I mean, yes, I'm sure. So,
well, but
no,
you're building already bonds, and you're giving a certainty and you're giving the comfort,
yes,
like this is a very important thing to create the comfort zone. The people, when you introduce the new solution or you drive the change, and you have to provide this comfort, yeah. And whether it's comfort comes from the ease of implementation, ease of the process, ease of adoption, and does not require too much of a personal effort also, like the company effort or the personal effort as well.
So I'm not sure. We didn't. I don't think we had a chance to introduce material to you. But what we're doing is something that can be, in principle, sounds great. But also, in some cases, it may also raise the problem. Okay, who's going to do that? Because what we're doing, we're empowering the subject matter experts within the companies to build very directly to build with our platform very complex simulations for, let's say, high risk industries. Which sounds great, right? Because you're giving them the power. Now the problem is, who wants to take that power? Who is the one that is going to be responsible for building those? So, although that's not a big problem, it does represent an assignment problem that some people say, I have my work full, I don't want to do that extra work, right? So it's still, even if you give them something new and let's say disruptive, it's still a problem with some companies, or at least initially they think, okay, so who's going to do that? Is it going to be me? No, thank you. I have enough on my plate already. So
exactly, I want to push it to somebody else. That exactly, well, what you're saying, that exactly was an example of one corporate internal incubator at also Daimler. When I left Daimler, then they asked BCGX to build them an internal kind of internal incubator like BCGX to grow the startups inside. And BCG did a good job. Yeah, they kind of copied, pasted, and adopted their approach. And then these Daimler guys, they said like, okay, then we will charge a slightly lower rates than BCG X for the internal customers. We'll have our processes aligned. And the biggest condition is that if you're coming up with an idea, you have to be deployed to our business unit to implement this idea for the next 6 to 12 months and then bring it back to the company. So nobody thought that what works externally will not work internally. If I am the head of the business unit and one of my probably most bright reports comes up with a great idea, a great know-how, how to develop the new solution or to improve things, and then he pitches this idea to sort of like a Shark Tank, whatever, of this board of the company, and then this idea is selected. Everybody is happy, but then here comes the price. Me, as a head of this department or the division, I have to allocate the budget almost on the commercial terms or the market conditions to pay for this solution being developed. Then I have to deploy my best, probably, the brightest guy from 6 to 12 months to work on this wonderful idea and then bring it back. Will it work? Will it fly? Of course not. Because I'm losing my internal budget, my money, so I have to decrease some of the other budgets, the other points, articles that I don't want to do because I will piss off my other leads or the heads, as I will take a portion of their money. And I will send the guy who is probably an over-deliver, overachiever, to do something else for 6 to 12 months. So then I have to find the replacement, train the replacement, and do something, because the person cannot do two things at the same time, or he will not like to do two things at the same time because he will be all mentally developing the new solution. And after 2 years and spending over 100 million euros, this wonderful initiative called Daimler X, then Lab 1881, was killed due to the fact that nobody wanted to work with this setup and with this solution. Something that started as a great idea and sounded really nice, but was killed in the execution and failed completely in the execution. And the idea was also to grow the internal kind of startups or connect with the startups, bring them inside, grow them, make them the Daimler proof. So also the intentions are good, but then the execution fails and suck. This is also important to keep in mind. And what are you saying, Claudio? The conditions that are around, yeah, and the environment that is around, that is super important. Maybe somebody else wants to share some of his experiences, so give some suggestions to the peers from their past. I see Ross is texting something, yeah, for on his experience working, yeah, with the Chinese. And also one of the things, prospects, they already tried similar solutions. If they use them now, why yes, no, what they liked, disliked. Then as shared before, we ask what exactly would be a killer set of solutions, or the features, I guess, that would help them right now. Then we create an interactive demo, not presentation. They can actually try and test themselves to experience how the solution feels and how it saves time, makes operations fast and easier. The whole cycle takes a max of 2 weeks. Yeah, speed is important. If it takes longer, they don't like the demo, they lose interest. Yeah, excessive. We learned that from dealing with the Chinese companies. In the West, the deal can take months, calls, NDAs, dinners, whatever. Yeah, and the Chinese, one call and go. Yeah, absolutely right. The velocity and also the mindset of the Asians and especially of Chinese is way different. I had a Chinese CTO who worked for 2 years in my company, but then after 2 years he left. He said, like, you're too slow. The decision-making process that you need to align with the corporate headquarters before we deploy the solution or before we do things, that's too slow. And he changed to work as a solutions architect to Huawei, yeah, and moved to Düsseldorf, and he's super happy there. And this is also the culture conflict, and this is what we are seeing now today in the automotive. The European automotive is far behind, and we see that the Chinese automotive is progressing forward because they are fast and they are happy to experiment. They are not afraid, and we again go to make things perfect and super slow, and we don't want to experiment and do revolutionary technologies and stuff. Cool. So anybody else to share some of the experience? I see that we have a couple of more minutes left. I see that Irina is already giving me some
yeah. No. I mean, it can be also questions. It can be comments. It can be anything. Yeah. Or maybe some tips and tricks that we forgot to discuss or to mention, or or you can even go with some case study. I mean, we have like a little bit of time left.
Yeah. So please, guys, I want to make sure that you have the floor and you can share with your peers some of your experiences, because I believe you're all experienced entrepreneurs and you have a lot to share. Or maybe just some questions or the thoughts. Yeah, just I don't know. Ivan has been silent here. I've been coaching this startup.
Yeah,
so
it's
Ivan,
been a
please.
while. So yeah, I was thinking, because you actually nailed a lot of use cases, like in my time when I was working with corporate, and it reminded me like one interesting story. And we are doing a kind of digital transformation in terms of the ways of working. So that company was a huge logistic company, and they were purely waterfall based corporation across of their divisions and organization, and we were bringing the agile into their world. And it was so funny that basically they were asking us to put the number by what percentage their efficiency in story points in any scores that we're using nowadays will grow after the transformation will end in a set period of time. And it was such a challenge to basically articulate that that's not how you're going to do it. So we can bring in tools, we can set up processes, right? So we can push towards the mindset change and the mindset, basically bringing the new mindset. And yeah, when you were talking about that case, that reminded me this particular story. But probably the most important thing that I personally got from collaboration and communication and basically doing projects for big corporate is that you have to be always on a short leg with the executives, with budget owners, and it's never enough until you personally build up the communication and some relationship with the people on the other side, because there will always be hidden interests. There always be other companies that are working and maybe competing with you in that sphere, and you might learn, as again in one of your stories, so in the same kind of transformation. So we were covering a few aspects. One was agile, second was basically moving to the cloud, their on-premises infrastructure to cloud. And we learned in the middle of our digital transformation program that they were also working with Microsoft in a separate division, and they internally wanted to make sure to identify who is the better company to do that. So they let us and them do the same thing. And even though that, again, that we face not a lot of, but some issues and misunderstandings on the way, until we learn that there is another company out there. And yeah, it's always good to have somebody and basically building up the relationship with somebody on the other side. But yeah, very informative talk. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. That sounds good. And you were addressing a very important point. Yeah, building a relationship and reading the signs. Yeah, it's also important not only to have, because sometimes those corporate sponsors, yeah, or your gatekeepers, yeah, that supporting you, they cannot say things directly, or they're afraid of saying things directly, but they can give you a sign. But you need to be able to read the signs and to adopt your behavior or your strategy or your solution based on this signs as well. So this, like how Paulo Coelho said, like read the signs, read the notes. They will lead you to success. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ivan. Any more?
Yes. Hello. So may I have also one little comment?
Sure.
So thanks a lot for your interesting workshop. So we are in health tech. So we just started to get in touch with big clients. In our case, this is hospitals, fertility centers. And just from my first experience, I see that when we enter big clinic, I don't know, Greece or recently Canada, like dozens of thousands of clients, and that's good for us. We spent maybe 1 or 2 Zooms with first professional medical doctors, and they are just so we discussed for a long time, like ethical things, transparency, etc., etc. And finally, they just say, good, we are satisfied. So you are an open guy, we trust your science, we trust it, so we give you green light. It doesn't mean anything, but it means that we will contact you with our colleagues. Maybe we will think about ethical committee, data transfer, etc. But first entry point, it's like 1 or 2 hours of discussion of pure science, maybe deep science, and there are some ethical and open questions. And after they just openly say yes or no. So that's my first experience. But in case of health tech, I think that's important to demonstrate some like scientific mindset and not oversell at all. So be modest. Say, we understand that the problem is super big. We may improve by several percentage for patients. We will improve their life, diagnosis, because there is no panacea, there is no magic pill, but we will try to do it together, and it works. So for now, it works. Some clinics from several big countries, they open doors for us. Let's see how it will work in the future. But so in case of health tech, I think first contact should be deeply scientific and without overselling at all. So that's my take-home message.
Yeah, that's a very good, very important one. It's like dealing with more science-driven or the academia-driven people who don't like overselling. Yeah,
Who are gatekeepers, and they are gatekeepers
and they are
in
very
many
strong
hospitals.
gatekeepers.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. They cut all the bullshit, sorry to say, immediately, and they sense that, they feel it, and they know. And it's good that you are not trying to work with the German clinics, because
we will.
but save it for the later point. Like
okay.
Once your solution is bulletproof, because in Germany, I kind of supported one startup that tried to have the information on the all let's say patient data connected to their health insurance card on the visits to other doctors, treatments and stuff that they had. And even in different cities of Germany, it's allowed or not allowed. Even though that last year, as of 1st of January 2025, they allowed the data sharing because it is for and if patient gives his consent that he's willing to share, then the companies, the insurance companies and the doctors, they have to share it, because sometimes you can get the treatment that is contradictory to each other. And you just don't know this. You just subscribe something, but it might kill you because you had the other treatment that is completely they don't pass together, or they come along together well. Even though that creates a lot of trouble, and this startup is not successful at all. And they are thinking just even to shut down or to close the things, because they are facing so much non-scientific conversations, but just regulatory talks saying no. Can we do this? No. Can we do this? No. Are you open? No. And they're already being cut, before they even ask for something or propose something, they're being cut off.
Yeah. I do see the same gradient in Switzerland. I'm also in Switzerland. French part is much more open. Zurich, like no. It's a regulatory and different problems, but French part is, at least I'm able to enter some clinics, some hospitals to have some proper discussion. Zurich and German parts.
Swiss Germans are way more open than the German Germans. Keep that in mind.
Thank you.
The Swiss Germans are on the far other side, because if you go to the pure German clinics in Germany itself, you will be shocked. You will be surprised. There is no way. And it's a really, really big issue. And it's not only in the medical sector where it's very sensitive, but it's also in the business sector. A friend of mine was the CIO of Porsche Digital, and they were trying to deliver and to develop some of the proactive or the customer care services, but they could not do anything because the sales guys were not sharing the customer data with the digital guys, because they were afraid that the digital guys will create an environment that will bypass the sales guys and will make their job obsolete. So in order to avoid that, I just don't share data at all, and I make you fail, because you cannot create digital solutions for customers if you don't have customer data. But that's the reality. That's also what's happening.
Yeah, I see that we're already out of time. I'm sorry to be a little bit, you need to get out of the table a little bit hungry, so you can achieve more and more. Dear founders, feedback. I will also remind you in the chat, though. We'll be happy to receive your opinion on the session. And Slava, thank you so much for this interactive discussion. I think it was the best format to kind of finish up the content program itself, and just this live polylog discussion conversation that was on the really crucial topic for sales and marketing of the startups, of the founders here. And dear founders, if you have seen, I hope that you have seen that we will have a kind of debriefing session for all the program participants, not regardless of the demo day, next week. So hope that you can still come and also share your feedback on the program, and also some kind of ice breaking. Thank you so much then, and wishing everyone a really pleasant afternoon. Slava, thank you for the session. Dear founders, thank you for your engagement.
Thanks, everyone.
See you.
Great session, great conversation. Feel free to reach out